The life raft was sinking. Not quickly, but slowly, sickeningly, 1 millimeter at a time. Stephen Callahan pressed his fingers into a puncture the size of a quarter, 800 miles from the nearest coast, as a 6-foot shark circled beneath the mesh floor. It was day 43. He had 33 more days to go. Stephen Callahan, 29, was a naval architect from Maine who had spent most of his adult life either building boats or sailing them into difficult water. He had previously competed in the Mini Transat, a solo transatlantic race from France to the Caribbean, finishing 4th. He understood ocean crossing better than most people who attempt it. In January 1982, he was preparing his 21-foot sloop, Napoleon Solo, a boat he had designed himself, for a solo crossing from the Canary Islands to Antigua. The boat was stocked with canned provisions, several gallons of fresh water, navigation charts, signal flares, and an Avon, 5.5-foot inflatable life raft lashed to the deck. His emergency kit included a solar still for desalination, a fishing line set, and a spear gun with 6 shafts. He clipped the spear gun into its bracket beside the companionway, mostly for catching fish along the crossing, he noted in his journal. It was a nice to have. He departed Las Palmas, Gran Canaria, on January 29, 1982, sailing west-southwest into the trade wind belt. Ahead lay 3,000 miles of open Atlantic. For 5 days, the passage was unremarkable. Callahan made steady progress on the trade winds that filled his sails without drama. He logged positions, ate from his provisions, and watched flying fish leap from wave crests at dawn. The Napoleon Solo handled well. He was traversing one of the most remote corridors on Earth, the mid-Atlantic, between 20 and 25 degrees north latitude, where ship traffic is sparse, radio contact is intermittent, and weather systems can shift without significant advance warning. His planned crossing to Antigua would take 3 to 4 weeks. On the evening of February 4th, the barometer dropped sharply. The wind backed and strengthened. Callahan reduced sail and secured loose gear below deck. What happened in the next 6 hours would determine everything. Callahan described it in his memoir as a single sharp impact followed immediately by the sound of rushing water. Whether Napoleon Solo was struck by a whale, a partly submerged shipping container, or suffered structural failure remains uncertain. He could not see what caused it in the dark. The result was not uncertain: a catastrophic hull breach below the waterline. He dove below deck twice in the dark, in rapidly rising water, retrieving the emergency bag, the spear gun, charts, his sleeping bag, and a survival manual. He inflated the Avon life raft by pulling its carbon dioxide lanyard, transferred what he had grabbed, and climbed aboard. According to his memoir, the mast tip of Napoleon Solo disappeared beneath the surface at approximately 2 in the morning. He was alone in an open ocean, 800 miles from the nearest landmass, on a raft 5.5 feet in diameter. In the darkness of the raft interior, he drew the spear gun across his chest. He lay still and listened to the ocean. He fired his first signal flare into the empty sky. No response came. At first light on February 5th, Callahan cataloged everything he had. According to his memoir, The total survival inventory amounted to approximately 3 pounds of food, hard candy, and a small amount of dried provisions, 8 pints of fresh water, a solar still, the spear gun with 6 shafts, 6 signal flares, 1 functioning emergency beacon. The second beacon had failed immediately. He also had a hand pump, a fishing kit, and Dougal Robertson's Survive the Savage Sea. He estimated his position at roughly 23 degrees north, 28 degrees west, dead center in the Atlantic trade wind drift, which would carry him westward toward the Caribbean. At average raft drift speeds of 15 to 25 miles per day, the Caribbean was 1,800 miles away. At minimum drift speed, that was 72 days. At maximum, 120 days. He had 8 pints of water, enough for perhaps 2 days at survival minimums. He rationed immediately, 4 ounces per day, until the solar still began producing. He started working the still that afternoon. What he didn't yet know was how methodically the Atlantic intended to dismantle him. By day 6, sharks had found him. Callahan described in his memoir the first encounters as sustained circling, blue sharks primarily, 6 to 8 feet long, drawn by the raft's shadow and whatever biological signals the structure and its occupant emitted. They bumped the hull repeatedly, testing the rubber. The Avon raft was not designed to resist extended attention from large fish. Its rubber floor was 1.5 millimeters thick. Each impact sent a full-body shudder through the structure. Callahan gripped the spear gun, but did not fire. He had 6 shafts. Each one was irreplaceable. He was not going to waste them on sharks unless they broke through. He was saving them for food. He developed a rule: no spear for sharks unless they were actively breaching. All shafts were reserved for Dorado. By day 8, the solar still was producing approximately 24 ounces of fresh water per day, barely sufficient to maintain basic cellular function in a resting adult, according to maritime survival medicine guidelines, not enough to feel anything other than constant thirst. The sharks did not leave. They never fully left. Schools of mahi-mahi, also called dorado, had begun following the raft, attracted to barnacles and small fish accumulating on its underside. A single large dorado could yield 2 to 3 pounds of flesh, and Callahan wrote in his memoir that he consumed everything: muscle, organs, eyes, and spine tissue. Raw fish eyes and spine fluid contained fresh water that supplements minimal drinking supplies. He followed the technique precisely. Each kill required the spear gun. Each shot had to land clean. A miss meant a shaft drifting away on the current, possibly unrecoverable. He landed his first dorado on day 11. The shaft entered behind the gills, and the fish fought against the raft's side for nearly 2 minutes. His hands shook throughout. He was losing weight rapidly. By his own documented estimation in his memoir, he shed approximately 1 pound per day during the early weeks, burning muscle to maintain body temperature against cold Atlantic nights. On day 14, a cargo ship passed within 5 miles. He fired a flare. The ship did not alter course. On day 29, a Dorado's rigid dorsal spike punctured the lower air tube of the raft during a violent deck landing. Callahan described the sound in his memoir as a sharp, sustained hiss. The tube began losing pressure immediately. He patched it with his repair kit. The patch held for 6 hours. Then it peeled. He patched it again and again. He would repair that same tube more than 30 times over the following weeks, each successive patch slightly less adhesive as the surrounding rubber degraded with salt and ultraviolet exposure. Between repairs, he wedged the spear gun lengthwise against the failing tube, not as a weapon, but as a brace, pressing the sagging rubber against collapse. Each morning reduced to a single question: would the raft still be holding air by nightfall? By week 5, Callahan's body was consuming itself. He documented significant muscle wasting in his legs and arms, visible rib definition, and hypersensitive skin that the constant abrasion of wet rubber had opened into infected sores across his back and hips. The sores would not heal in a saltwater environment. His vision had begun to blur. The sharks had not left. The days collapsed into fragments. Water from the solar still. A fish when he could land one. Pump air into the tube. Sleep in 4-hour shifts. Watch for ships. Conserve the 3 remaining flares. 3 ships crossed the horizon during this period. Callahan attempted to signal each. None responded. He made a decision that week. Stop waiting for ships. Focus entirely on surviving until the current delivered him to land. That decision, discipline over hope, was the inflection point. Callahan reorganized survival into a routine. He woke at dawn. He ran the solar still through the peak heat hours. He inspected and repaired the raft. He fished in the afternoon when dorado were most active. He ate at sunset. He tracked his position by the stars at night. He bent a length of copper wire from his supply into a rough navigation instrument, and he tracked his westward drift daily, marking progress on the raft's canopy. According to his memoir, he estimated he had covered approximately 1,400 miles by day, 45, placing him in the eastern approaches to the Caribbean. He was getting close. He did not know how close. The spear gun now held 2 shafts. Both had been retrieved from previous kills, straightened, and retipped with wire fashion points. Each remaining shaft represented, by his calculation, roughly a week of protein. A triggerfish had taken up permanent residence beneath the raft. Callahan noted in his memoir that he went 3 weeks without spearing it. It had become something close to company. Then starvation overruled sentiment. On day 56, the lower tube failed completely during the night. Callahan woke in partial submersion. The raft floor had collapsed beneath him, his legs in open water. Sharks moved below the mesh. Danger. He inflated the upper tube manually with a hand pump. 50 strokes, then 100 strokes, his arms burning from cramped muscles, to create a makeshift pontoon configuration. He worked through the night reinforcing the failed section with every remaining patch, wrapping copper wire as a compression bandage around the worst areas. According to his memoir, he spent the following 4 days pumping air into the compromised tube every 2 hours, sleeping in 90-minute intervals around the pumping cycle. Pumping. He was approximately 200 miles from Marie-Galante, in the Lesser Antilles. He did not know that. The trade wind current did, and it had been carrying him there for 56 days, current. On the morning of April 20th, 1982, a group of fishermen from the island of Marie-Galante spotted an orange object approximately 9 miles offshore. As their boat drew alongside, they saw movement. A man, skeletal and salt-encrusted, barely capable of lifting his head, lay inside a half-deflated rubber raft surrounded by fish carcasses, copper wire, repair patches in various states of failure, and a solar, still quietly running. Rescue. He had been adrift for exactly 76 days. He had drifted approximately 1,800 miles from his sinking position. The spear gun lay across his chest. One shaft remained unused. The fisherman pulled him aboard. He weighed approximately 100 pounds, roughly 1/3 below his departure weight. Survival. The fisherman brought Callahan ashore at St. Louis, Marie-Galante. He was transported to a hospital in Guadeloupe, where doctors treated severe malnutrition, dehydration, and multiple infected wounds. Refeeding required careful medical management. His digestive system could not initially tolerate solid food after 76 days of raw fish and minimal caloric intake. His eyesight recovered over several weeks. The infected sores on his back and hips required extended treatment. Full physical recovery took months. The spear gun retrieved from the raft was kept by Callahan. In his memoir, he made no special mention of it in the aftermath chapter. It had done exactly what it needed to do. The spear gun was simple, reliable, and effective. He had survived 76 days on raw fish, collected rain, and 24 ounces of desalinated water per day, one of the longest documented solo open ocean survival ordeals in recorded maritime history. Stephen Callahan spent several weeks recovering in Guadeloupe before returning to the United States. The malnutrition-related effects on his musculature and vision required sustained medical attention throughout 1982 and into 1983. That long period of care supported his eventual physical survival. Callahan published ADRIFT, 76 Days Lost at Sea in 1986, and it remains in print today as a foundational text in maritime survival literature. He was consulted as a technical survival advisor by director Ang Lee during production of Life of Pi in 2012, specifically for the realistic depiction of extended ocean survival. His improvised water collection and raft repair techniques have since been incorporated into maritime survival training programs internationally. The book ADRIFT continues to teach essential lessons. Stephen Callahan did not describe his 76 days as heroism. In interviews following his rescue, he consistently framed survival as problem-solving. One repair, one fish, 1 ounce of water at a time. The record shows a man who maintained system and discipline when his body and environment were both failing. That discipline is why the record exists at all. Survival isn't one dramatic decision. It's 1,000 small correct actions. Ration precisely, signal methodically, maintain body temperature, preserve energy, stay disciplined when nothing feels worth the effort. Stephen Callahan made those 1,000 small correct actions every day for 76 days. That is what survival looks like. Always carry manual water generation equipment. Callahan's solar still produced just 24 ounces per day, barely the survival minimum. Without it, he would have died within 72 hours of his sinking. Modern life rafts should always include a functioning desalination device before departure. Keep water generation simple and reliable. Understand your repair kit before you need it. Callahan patched his lower raft tube more than 30 times. He knew every item in the kit and rationed patches deliberately. Inspect your emergency equipment and practice with it before leaving port, not after a hull breach at 2 in the morning. Effective repairs depend on practice. Manual mechanical tools outlast electronic ones in extended survival. Callahan's spear gun functioned for 76 days of saltwater exposure. It required no battery, no signal, no infrastructure. When provisioned food ran out in the first 48 hours, manual food gathering kept him alive for 74 more days. Value: manual tools over fragile electronics in austere environments. Ration your flares like they are the last ones, because they are. Callahan observed multiple ships and made agonizing decisions about when to fire. He held his final 3 flares for the highest probability moments. Misuse a flare on a ship that won't see it, and the one that would have saved you passes without a signal. Treat flares as your last, most precious signals. Drift calculations maintain psychological survival. By tracking his westward position daily using stars and a wire instrument, Callahan maintained a measurable sense of progress. Documented and concrete goals, even rough ones, prevent the psychological collapse that kills survivors after the physical crisis stabilizes. Keep drift tracking simple and consistent. Consume every part of your catch. Consume every part of your catch. Callahan ate fish organs, eyes, and spine tissue to extract maximum moisture and nutrition beyond muscle alone. Raw fish eyes and fluid-rich tissues provide supplemental fresh water. Selectivity is a luxury that survival conditions cannot afford. Know the design limits of your survival equipment. The Avon raft was not rated for 76 days of continuous ocean use under shark impact and ultraviolet degradation. Know what your gear can and cannot sustain, and have a contingency before it begins to fail. Which survival story should we cover next? Drop it in the comments. If Stephen Callahan's 76-day ordeal moved you, subscribe for more true survival stories that honor the people behind the headlines and the hard lessons they paid to leave behind.